Welcome back to the panel discussion, Raising the Bar in Government IT Using Hybrid Cloud, sponsored by Red Hat on federalnewsradio.com and 1500 AM. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guests today are Pam Dyson, the CIO of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Joe Klimavicz, the CIO of the Department of Justice, Michelle Sparrow-Walker, the Acting Director of the Systems and Integration Office at the Department of State, Steve Grewal, the Deputy CIO at the General Services Administration, and Adam Clater, the Chief Cloud Architect for Red Hat's North American Public Sector. Before break, we just got into the benefits of cloud. Security came up several times. But one thing that was said very early on in our discussion by Pam, I'm going to go to you first, of course, is security is so 2 years ago. Now, I know you mean that in the sense of how much worrying there is. Security is still top of mind. We can't argue that. But give me a sense of why do you think that maybe you as a CIO is more secure with the security of the cloud? You see how I did that?
Yes. Yeah. So there's a couple of things. One, as I alluded to before, I think FedRAMP has moved the needle a lot in that space in terms of certifying at least public cloud providers, and there's a distinction there between the public and the private in this space. The other thing is, I mean, let's face it, all the commercial cloud providers are investing a lot of money in security because, it's their bread and butter business. So, they're going to invest in security because a breach in their space means a loss of business for them. So they're also making a lot of investment there. But more importantly, I think government agencies have become more smart. Where IT organizations, as it relates to InfoSec, is less about certification and accreditation now as it is risk-based security management and standing up risk analytics programs and continuous monitoring. I think it's important with any cloud solution that we bring those tools and that insight into that space. So from where I sit, we would stand up our own virtual private network for security to run those continuous monitoring tools. It is still SEC data. We're responsible for the data, the integrity of that data, the availability of it. And so a part of the strategy is investing in a security solution that will pair with the virtual networks in the cloud to ensure that we continue to have that continuous monitoring capability. So I think most government agencies, my peers around this table will say that they have also invested in risk-based cybersecurity and security analytics. And I think that's an important part. That's a change maker in this space, the way that the federal agencies are approaching cybersecurity and security.
Steve, you're shaking your head. Jump in.
Sure. I would absolutely agree with Pam that FedRAMP has matured. And also, I think the enterprise kind of security requirements as far as mandates like TIC and CDM and others, the reference architectures, absolutely. This, all the technical approaches and the reference architectures to how to actually operationalize those things in cloud environments, I think that's becoming more and more clear. For example, the TIC reference architecture for some of the FedRAMP providers. So I think you're seeing an uptick in adoption as a result of FedRAMP maturity as a whole, but also some of the enterprise cybersecurity programs, more technical guidance around how to operationalize those, and finally, having the visibility you need, around data, around assets, around configuration, around vulnerabilities in a near real-time fashion, where you do have a high degree of confidence that not only have you done the initial work to make that risk-based decision, but you're also sustaining the security posture of those environments.
It's really interesting to hear you say that. I mean, I know your background as a former Chief Information Security Officer, that you are espousing the fact that there is enough progress being made that you are comfortable with it. So I think it's a good sign. Joe, where you sit with as you heard Steve kind of reel off the different cyber initiatives, whether it's CDM or TIC or whichever, how does that kind of fit into your Justice Department's cloud movement?
We're certainly tracking and involved in all of those initiatives. Really looking forward to FedRAMP and FISMA High in the cloud. But, I think as Pam said, that it's still your data. You're responsible for it. And not only is it DOJ's data, but as I said earlier, we inherit a lot of the information from other departments. So essentially any of the controls that other departments and agencies had to put in place, we inherit those same requirements. And so continuous monitoring is really important for us. The information may be out in a cloud, a commercial cloud, but we need to be able to continuously monitor the security and be able to understand what information is flowing up there, how the cyber prevention and awareness is configured, I think Steve made a good point that we all know that these cloud providers have security at the top of their list, and that they are very secure in an aggregate and a holistic sense, but they have a lot of different data sets from different federal agencies, commercial agencies, and so it's incumbent upon us to make sure that our information out there is protected to our standards, and that we can basically show that to any auditors at any moment.
You brought up the auditors.
Yes.
Michelle, you guys, when you talk about your cloud policy and the board, security obviously is top of mind. Discuss a little bit if you've participated in some of those conversations around security. Is the business side understanding it? Is the executives understanding it? Is this an easier, if you will, quote unquote, sell now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that we're still concerned, with the risk of the high value assets. But as I mentioned, with our cloud computing governance board, we have incorporated those representatives from information security and cybersecurity, and so they have a seat at the table, of course, and to help shape the opinion and views of the executives and inform on some of the security concerns that we should have. But again, I don't think we're at the place yet. I mean, low and moderate systems, we're moving out there, but anything that requires additional protections will probably continue to run in our DOS managed data centers for some time.
And I think that's pretty typical. Adam, let me just move to you real quick on this. You're hearing a lot more satisfaction or comfortability with security. Is that just we happen to pick 4 CIOs who are comfortable with that, or are you hearing that more broadly?
So I think that the commercial cloud providers have certainly proven that security is at the top of their list. But I do want to get back to one point. Let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. There is value still in the accreditations and certifications that we're doing. Moving to a purely risk-based system, I don't think would be advisable for anyone, right? And so within IT security, you have this concept of defense in depth, right? And I think a lot of that begins with the accreditations and certifications that we go through. And the government and industry spend a lot of time and effort with third parties making sure that we achieve those goals. So I think it is good that we sort of layer all of that security on top of one another. And I think that's what you'll see in the commercial cloud providers. That's what they've been doing.
Steve?
If I just may add one more point. So at GSA, one of our kind of key focus areas moving forward in relation to cloud is a true automated cloud configuration management database. So as we have decentralized footprints, we have a portfolio of cloud providers. How do we have how do we centralize one place where we have complete visibility into all of our cloud installations, all of our implementations, and from a full stack perspective. So I think that's also going to be key as we continue to kind of decentralize and continue to move in this paradigm.
And that seems, Adam, you want to jump in?
Just within our customer base, we see a huge interest in that very concept. How do I manage and catalog and sort of have awareness across all of these different cloud providers, right? The idea of, hybrid cloud is very exciting and very interesting, but it can also be a little scary from that perspective, right? So I think having that single pane of glass with sort of rich reporting and chargeback, showback capability is going to become really, really important in making this dream a little bit more of the reality.
You're not going to tell me this is going to be the re-rise, the resurrection of the cloud broker concept? Are you going to tell me that?
Not broker, no. That's sort of the other side of the business spectrum, but just sort of from a observational, tactical, how do I know all of the things that I have, and how do I guarantee that, again, we spend a lot of time consolidating all of our things and making all of our things the same. Let's make sure that as we're pushing more new things out into these clouds, they're also the same so that we can continue to automate and standardize those.
Now, Pam, one thing you brought up when you're talking about kind of how you're dealing with security is this idea of you may have not used this term, virtual private network of sorts, a VPN kind of running in between, I guess, your network and the cloud. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about it? I know there may be some sensitivities, but generally, are you getting that single pane of glass as Adam brought up?
Yeah.
Not
yet, but that's the purpose. I mean, and that's why we're doing it. So, not to tag any specific cloud provider, but one of the things that we want to do is peer with the virtual private network that we have. So any information that's traversed from our premises or down from the cloud would go through our VPN. It would employ all of the same security tools that we use to monitor internally, so that, again, that we can monitor the data that's going in. I mean, for us, that's a requirement. So for any cloud solution, it would have to go through our own security VPN
And
in
is that-
order to go back and
Is
forth.
that data in and data out?
Data in and data out.
And of course,
Yep.
the question of encryption has to come up, right?
Encryption as well. Exactly.
You were going to tell me anything different
No,
anyways, I know
nothing
that.
different.
Joe, from your perspective, it's very similar to what probably we heard Pam. Are you looking at that single pane of glass, or is that something that, because low and moderate, maybe you're more comfortable with, but when it gets to the high piece, that's really where that maybe comes in as well?
Well, we're certainly moving in that direction, but, I mean, just to piggyback on what Pam was saying is that the networking is incredibly important, especially when you start talking about a hybrid architecture. So we're really looking at connecting all of our networks through very, very high speed, large pipes, such that you connect to one of them, you connected to all three of them. Then how do we connect to our cloud service providers? And there's a lot of work that goes into that. Certainly, you want to make sure you have an encrypted connection where you have all the visibility. But it's really understanding what information is out there, where is it going, how is it protected, and that's a continuous issue. But I can't stress enough the importance of making sure you've got the right network connection to all of these centers. Otherwise, your users will not be happy. It may be a really inexpensive or cost-effective solution, but that you can't take advantage of.
Latency, yeah.
Latency.
Michelle, you guys have a very similar challenge at the State Department because, as you mentioned, you guys aren't just CONUS, you're OCONUS. So
Right.
talk a little bit about how you guys are kind of finding that right balance of the security side, but also the, as Joe described, the efficiency, the effectiveness side.
Well, I mean, we also have connectivity between all of our core data centers, and we're really in the infancy stages of establishing the connections that we're going to put in place for hybrid cloud computing, and we haven't even yet identified the cloud that we're going to make that first connection to. But our overseas posts, they operate as separate instances. We don't have connectivity from those individual 200 posts, back into our core data centers. But that's why cloud computing is going to be so beneficial for us because of the environments that we have. We do have VPNs between some of the other agencies that we do business with in our intranet, but security, much like everyone else, is one of the key concerns that we have. Yeah.
It's actually kind of refreshing, I think, as Adam brought up, to hear that there is this kind of settling of the security piece. So let's look out to the future. I'm going to start with Steve on this one. Where is GSA going to be in 2 to 4 years around data center, around cloud? Give me a sense.
So based on our current plans, we continue, by the end of fiscal year 18, we continue to shut down an additional 28 data centers. We're projecting an additional, $2.5 million in savings, and we're on track for that. In addition, we're going to continue transforming applications to move to various cloud paradigms. As we talked a lot about hybrid today, we talked about on-prem. We're going to continue performing those assessments and executing on those opportunities to move workloads to the various clouds, community clouds, where appropriate, or even transforming applications and modernizing within over the next couple years.
I get the sense that the apps modernization is really where it's going next. Michelle, from your State's Department's perspective?
In the next 2 to 4 years, we will have consolidated down to only 3 core enterprise data centers, and we'll continue to look, though, at identifying those inefficient non-core data centers that are candidates for consolidation. And from a cloud perspective, we hope to gain some synergies from the Cloud Computing Governance Board that we've recently stood up. And certainly we expect to have more collaboration, big data analytics capabilities in the cloud that'll help with some of the decision-making frameworks that we have at the State Department. And
it's just one quick follow-up on the governance board. Is that something that's meeting weekly, monthly? Do you get a sense of how often it's getting together or discussing the? So
we just kicked off the governance board this spring, so it's very new. Currently, it's meeting monthly, formally, but there's work going on in the background. As I said, we have, as a matter of fact, that board is accepting business capabilities from customers every day and still even without the formal meetings. They're using that governance board process to determine whether or not those business capabilities are good cloud candidates or not. So the process is still working. It's an ongoing process with the staff, with the support team that's always working toward that cloud computing effort. But I believe the official meetings are just monthly.
All right. Joe, where's justice going to be in 2 to 4 years?
Well, Jason, as I said before, I think we're 3 by 19. That's the term we're coining. I think we're on that pace, and then by the end of 19, we should be down to 3 data centers. We will have consolidated 107 or closed 107 data centers over a 7-year period. I think we're looking at about a 20% cost reduction over a 10-year period. To date, we've saved over $40 million by closing data centers. My office will, in this hybrid model, will continue serving as the broker. Michelle really talked a lot about the governance, and we have a very robust governance structure. With 43 components in the Department of Justice, we need that governance structure. You want to make sure everybody has a say in that decision-making process. But we also, it doesn't stop in 19 either when we get down to 3. We're trying to minimize the amount of colo, but as Adam said, that you can continuously improve your efficiency in building more shared infrastructure. So we're continuing to do that, but that's beyond 19 where I see our effort.
Pam.
Same thing with the SEC. So 2 to 4 years from now, cloud will be a major service offering for us. We are also, we're a smaller agency. We have 2 data centers, but we're looking at leveraging the cloud for disaster recovery and some of our business continuity. But I think, and this has been a very robust conversation, I think the thing that I want to say that shouldn't get missed, though, one of the benefits of the cloud is speed to innovate. And we're IT professionals here. One of the things that we're looking to leverage the cloud for is in our development environments, our test environments, our piloting and proof of concept environments, that we can spin up these environments to do innovation work that we hope will have benefits to the mission of the agency.
All right, Adam, take us home.
Yeah. So I think you all made great points, right? We're going to follow through on this consolidation effort, right? And consolidation. I think we're going to see an emergence within data centers of, alternative hypervisors as well. We're spending a lot of money on virtualization. I think there's going to be some consolidation in that space. So I think those are all good things to take away. But what I really hope we begin to see is some really, really agile application development where we're working with our business partners to really build applications within our data center, burst them out to other data centers, whether they be community or commercial cloud providers, and then manage all of that in a really secure way, because that's going to continue to be top of mind.
All right. Great conversation. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank our guests for their time in this great conversation. Our guests were Pam Dyson, the CIO of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Joe Klimavicz, the Deputy Assistant Attorney General and CIO of the Department of Justice, Michelle Sparrow-Walker, the Acting Director of the Systems and Integration Office at the Department of State, Steve Grewal, the Deputy CIO at the General Services Administration, and Adam Clater, the Chief Cloud Architect for Red Hat's North American Public Sector. I'm your host, Jason Miller, and you've been listening to the panel discussion, Raising the Bar in Government and IT Using Hybrid Cloud, sponsored by Red Hat on federalnewsradio.com and 1500 AM. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsradio.com and search Red Hat.
On behalf of Red Hat, thank you for joining us. A link to the archive session will be sent to you shortly. If you requested a training certificate, you will also receive an email with download instructions after the webinar. This concludes our discussion. Thank you.